Hello and welcome to Business Class. Ahead on the program, the fourth largest cruise ship in the world docks in Brisbane. Melbourne's VIP jet terminal opens in 2018, and Airbnb inks a luxury deal. Plus, the Royal Hawaiian Resort turns 90. But first, Qatar Airways is set to reveal the much-anticipated super business class product at this year's ITB Berlin Travel Trade Show. The airline CEO promises the seat will revolutionize business class with a suite-like design and business class bedroom. For more on the Gulf carrier, plus all the other travel news around, Schweitzer joins us from Travel Daily. Christian, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Super business class, quite the name. What exactly is that?
Well, I wish I could tell you much because it's a closely guarded secret. But yes, all will be revealed. I believe it's on March 8 this year in Germany. But ahead of that, what Qatar has done most recently in Melbourne has given a sneak peek to the trade of what their forthcoming A380 service will be from Doha to Melbourne, which replaces the current B777 service.
Okay, so what was it like?
So the interesting thing about this is that it introduces a first-class product into the Victorian market. So that's really...
But still, just to clarify, it's still called business, but it's essentially first class.
Well, no, there's a business class service dedicated on the A380, and there's a brand new first-class service on the A380 as well, which is what they currently don't have on the B777 aircraft. So this introduces a new product to the market and really adds a lot more competition to the likes of Etihad and Emirates, their closest competitors.
And how big a threat do you think Qatar is to the likes of Emirates?
Well, they certainly do like to rattle the cage there, and you look at their pricing and it does undercut their competitors somewhat. The A380 will add a lot more volume to the market. It will be a daily service to Melbourne, and 48 seats in business class, all on the upper deck. There's just 8 seats in first class. Dedicated cabin, fully flat bed, the largest of back screen TVs, extra wide seats there. So it's a really appealing product there, and they price it quite competitively as well.
And what is the current service that Qatar offers to Australia?
So currently they fly to most of the major capital cities except for Brisbane, and it's a one-stop to Doha, and then Doha onto Europe and to other gateways as well.
And is there a lounge that Qatar flyers can access?
Very opulent, absolutely. So you get the best of the best lounges, whether it's business class or first class, and it's a fully inclusive service as well. So all the high-end trimmings and that you would expect when you purchase a business or a first class service.
Okay, interesting moves there. Definitely upping the ante when it comes to those flights amongst that competition, those very competitive routes. Let's turn to an Australian airline, Virgin Australia, shall we? Yeah. Because we've heard that they're going to begin I think it's 30 services to Hong Kong. What are the details?
Right. So this is really interesting. They've just announced their intention this week to fly a direct service with their A330 aircraft from Australia into Hong Kong. They'll then code share with Hainan Airlines and Hong Kong Airlines for additional services into mainland China. So this particular announcement of flying from Australia to Hong Kong is really going to challenge the market share of current leaders Qantas and Cathay Pacific to Hong Kong.
But we don't know what cities as of yet they're planning.
No, you're
right.
That's
kind of key.
Yes, absolutely. So we don't know whether it's going to be multiple cities within Australia or whether it's going to be just one city to begin with. But what we certainly do know is that the competition is heating up. They really want that inbound traveller from Chinese mainland into Australia.
Of course, why wouldn't you in this day and age? But what's happened then to the plans that Virgin Australia had to fly to the Chinese mainland? I mean, is that sort of off the table now? Or?
Yeah, it certainly is not something that they've revealed they'll be doing straight away right now. So they've got a really good code share agreement with Hainan and with Hong Kong Airlines. The parent company owns a 20% stake in Virgin, so I think that they're going to explore that opportunity first before making other announcements.
Now, we've had another, enhancement, you could say, coming through for the Velocity program as well, and this is in relation to hotels. That's right. What exactly are the details?
So this is another benefit that is conferred to Velocity frequent flyer members now. Essentially, through that particular program, there are some 465,000 hotels that are now accessible via that particular program.
So you can book using your points?
Absolutely, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So you exchange your points for not only airfares, but also hotel accommodation worldwide as well.
Okay, what other sort of news is out there? We've got Sydney Airport being talked about once again. I mean, we're in reporting season, the thick of it, here on the Business Channel. But again, we're hearing that we've got, I guess, Sydney Airport really starting to talk about guest spaces and reserved spaces.
That's right. So it's to do with the car parking facilities there. So as of the beginning of March of this year, you'll be able to not only just book, online, which you can currently, but get a guaranteed bay. So
you know where you're headed.
Absolutely.
You pull in there, that's yours.
It expedites the process and means that rather than just turning up at the gate and then trying to look around for a car park space, it's guaranteed. Far more efficient. They can't.
Ching ching.
Oh, I'm sure that there's a bit of a premium on it. We won't know that just yet, but we'll see come 1st of March this year what the pricing will be. They do have it currently at the P1 car park facility opposite the domestic terminal. They've rolled that over to P7, which services the international terminal.
You'd have to think that they're doing this for business travellers.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you would pay a premium for that particular service, no doubt.
And you don't have to become a member or anything like that? No.
Very simple to book it online.
Sounds good. So now we're talking about the second airport. So we've got New South Wales Opposition Leader Luke Foley calling on the Turnbull government to classify Sydney's Badgerys Creek, or the proposed Badgery Creek Airport, as a regional airport. So what's the push behind that?
Yeah, this is a really interesting call. Essentially, Sydney's Kingsford Smith, Melbourne's Tullamarine, Brisbane and Perth, they're all hamstrung somewhat by the limited number of international flights that can service that. But by dubbing an airport a regional airport, like Adelaide, Cairns or Darwin, for instance, and in this case here, Badgerys Creek, it means that there are far fewer restrictions on the amount of international flights that can service that particular destination, which in the upshot is that it would be a massive jobs creator with more international flights going to Badgerys Creek, not just at the airport itself, but also the peripheral services as well.
What are some of the current restrictions that are in place for the current Sydney airport?
Curfew times, for instance.
What is a curfew time?
So the exact times I'm not sure, but I don't believe you can land before 5 a.m. and I don't believe that you can also land after 11 p.m.
I think it's usually 11.
Exactly, yep. So there would be a lifting of such restrictions, potentially at Badgerys Creek, but also the amount of slots available for international aircrafts too. And so that's what the opposition leader in New South Wales government is pushing for.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. When we talk about, well, let's turn to hotels, should we? Because we've got Schweitzer's Retreat, a first venture in Sydney, and it's going to be sort of a heritage property that they'll redo.
Absolutely, yes. So Schweitzer's Retreats, this will be their 8th property. It's a boutique style accommodation. It will be located in Potts Point, which is towards Sydney's east of the CBD, located along Victoria Street. There's a range of Victorian terraces built in the 1880s, and they've been refurbed to accommodate the Spices Retreat. It's its first venture into Sydney. They've got a number of other properties scattered.
Whereabouts?
In Potts Point.
Okay.
And they've got a number of properties scattered throughout the Blue Mountains, up in the Hunter Valley. But interestingly, 20 guest rooms, very boutique in style, elegant without it really being ostentatious at all.
So how does it really differ from some of the other resorts that Schweitzer's has?
Well, it's very
different in look, obviously.
Yes, indeed. So it's not a country homestead by any means there, but I guess it's the attention to service, it's the pampering and the peripheral services that go alongside it there. But it just makes for an alternate, stay rather than a high-rise hotel in the city. This is a very convenient, located alternative. It's actually owned by Jude Turner, who is the wife of Flight Centre's CEO Graham Turner as well. So it's part of the Flight Centre.
Oh, that's interesting. And do we have price point for that?
We don't. There's been a soft opening, but the grand opening happens in a couple of months, around about June of this year.
Now, Airbnb has confirmed the acquisition of a Montreal-based company, Luxury Retreats it's called. So what is this deal all about then?
Right, so it's reported that Airbnb paid somewhere in the order of $200 million to $300 million US for this. So Luxury Retreats is an aggregator. It lists a number of very high-end properties. So it's interesting because it marks a departure from what you typically purchase via Airbnb. So Luxury Retreats has chateaus, it has villas, for instance.
But are they privately owned?
They are, yeah. Many of them are privately owned. So for instance, Hollywood director director, Francis Ford Coppola. He has a villa in Italy, and that lists for around about $10,000 per night. So Airbnb...
We should book a weekend away.
Well, yeah, why not? I mean, it sounds absolutely terrific there, but prices range up to $25,000 per night. So it really is the top end of town, and it's said to be a very profitable business, luxury retreats, so that will add to the bottom line of Airbnb.
But so you sort of get the idea then that Airbnb is looking to expand, it's looking to become much more than what it is, and it will take over,
absolutely,
you know, not just what it's already doing, but moving
Correct.
into other areas as well. Do you ever envision a time that Airbnb actually has its own properties that it rents out?
Well, possibly, but I guess their whole model is that they aggregate, you know, unwanted inventory there. So maybe, but that would yet again represent a different departure from their current strategy.
Yeah, but anyways, regardless, they're sort of the technology hub for that type of rental out there.
They are.
So do we have any Australian properties listed on that luxury?
Well, there's 4,000 listings in total, so I haven't made my way through all 4,000 of them just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's one or two there.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. All right, we have reservations open for Hong Kong Disneyland's
That's right.
third resort hotel. So have you been? Or?
I've been to Hong Kong Disneyland back in 2011 for the opening of Toy Story. It was a lot of fun. This is their third resort there. It's located right next door to the actual theme park itself. Views of the South China Sea. There's some 750 rooms available, and it's got this kind of explorer theme to it. So the decor is a reflection of that. It's got some tropical sort of settings around it there, but certainly fun for adults, you know, great fun for the kids there, and very close proximity to the theme park itself.
And so I guess Australians can soon look forward to going on Virgin Australia to Hong
Good
Kong,
time,
potentially, depending, of course, what city you're in, what city they choose to fly from.
Yes.
All right, what's Disneyland in Hong Kong like?
It's, you know,
How does it compare if you've been to others?
It is. It's a lot smaller than the one in Anaheim. It's certainly smaller than Disney World in Florida. But, you know, it's very neat, clean, and, you know, I was there during a particularly humid time, but in saying that, it worked like clockwork. It's, you know, it really encompasses the Disney theme well.
Okay, Christian, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Christian Schweitzer there joining us from Travel Daily. We have to take a short break. When we return, well, we'll learn all there is to know about the Royal Hawaiian Resort, which turns 90 this year. Back in a moment.